Andy McCarthy is a former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, and he joins us tonight. Andy, I don't want to overstate this, but reading the justifications in the Times story for this investigation into a sitting president, it seems like FBI officials disagreed with his policy positions on Russia. Is that an appropriate pretext for a criminal investigation?
No, it's not, Tucker. It's not an appropriate pretext for the FBI for any investigation. And I must say that, listening to your monologue, it occurs to me that, since the Soviet Union fell, it's been the purpose of this government, it seems, under administrations of both parties, to treat Russia as if it were England. And I remember, the Obama debate with Mitt Romney, where, Romney suggested that Russia was our greatest geopolitical enemy, and Obama mocked him for that. Obama, in a conversation with Medvedev, who is basically the cat's paw for Putin, says, thinking he's not being heard, as soon as I get by this election, I'll have more flexibility. I imagine if Trump had said these sorts of things. But I must say, listening to all that, it seems like Trump is the guy who was left without a chair when the music stopped. Because all of a sudden, everything that was regular and fine is now, now Trump is, Russia's back to being, I guess we're back in the Cold War. And look, I think I probably find Russia to be more of a threat than you do.
Yes.
But the FBI is not supposed to be doing policy. That's not their job.
So, why was there and there's a lot that we don't know, but from that story, and no one has contested the basic facts that I have seen, officials in the FBI sat down and decided it is unacceptable for an elected leader to come to these policy conclusions. Therefore, there must be some sinister motive. Why did no one in the FBI say, wait a second, this is demonstrably not our job. We're not allowed to do this?
Because they didn't start doing it in May 2017. In May 2017, Tucker, all they did was, as a formal paper matter, they opened an investigation specifically on Trump. But it was the same investigation that had been being conducted for a year. I keep going back to the Steele dossier. You mentioned the warrant that they got on Carter Page. That was mainly on the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier is not about Carter Page, and it's not even about prostitutes in a Moscow hotel. The theory of the Steele dossier is that Trump and Russia, Trump and the Kremlin, Trump personally and the Kremlin, are in a conspiracy, an espionage conspiracy, to subvert the election so that Trump can get in and do Russia's bidding. That was what they went to the FISA court with in order to get a warrant on Carter Page. So the theory behind this, if you look at the Steele dossier, guys like Page and Manafort and Cohen, they're sort of the emissaries between the Trump side of the conspiracy and the Kremlin side of the conspiracy. But the whole thing's about Trump, and it was always about Trump. And all that happened in May of 2017 is they went overt in their files on something that they had been covertly doing for over a year.
Well, that's such a – you are the only one I've heard make that point. It's a really smart point. Andy McCarthy, thank you very much for that. Over a year. Unbelievable.
Thanks, Tucker.
John Kirikou is a former CI officer and a whistleblower who knows the federal government very well through hard experience. John, thanks very much for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
What do you? So you read that story in the New York Times on Friday. Tell me if it ratified or contradicted what you already believed about how government works.
Oh, no. This absolutely ratified what I believed about government. First of all, Andrew McCarthy is exactly right. This is what the FBI does, and it predates 2017 by at least a year. Don't forget, Tucker, that the CIA has a counterintelligence center that works very, very closely with the FBI's counterintelligence division. So just imagine at the end of 2016, Jim Clapper and John Brennan and Jim Comey sitting in a room saying, we don't like Donald Trump's positions, we should open an investigation and let it leak out later that he's a Russian spy. The FBI did this to Henry Wallace in the 1940s. They did it to Martin Luther King in the 60s, to George McGovern in 72. If they don't like you, they call you a communist or they call you a Russian dupe, and then they let the propaganda on the press take over.
I mean, why would liberals, of all people, stand by and allow that to happen? Wasn't this their fever dream, that some unaccountable cabal of bureaucrats in the national security state would subvert democracy? Why aren't they saying something about this?
Because they hate Donald Trump that much. They don't like the man, they don't like his policies, and they see the only way or the best way to unseat him as using what we call the deep state.
I mean, what does this mean for future presidents? I mean, if Kamala Harris, or just pick a candidate, gets elected next time or the time after that, I mean, can any president really believe that his or her bureaucracy won't try to end the presidency?
No, I think that's exactly what the problem is. And what we need here is robust congressional oversight, which we haven't had in decades.
Yes.
It should be up to the Senate and House Judiciary Committees to put a stop to this kind of nonsense before it even forms its own life. They could have smothered it in the crib, and they didn't.
They're cheering it on. John, thank you. It's great to see you, always.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, the government shutdown continues. America's